You've probably come across depressed rich white men who are all trying to do the same thing: fight back against their fathers. They all have daddy issues, whether it's an act of vengeance or an attempt to gain the respect of their fathers, and Wes Bentley's Jamie Dutton on Yellowstone is right up there with some of the fan-favorite characters of this genre. So let's figure out how Jamie's been dealing with this predicament. First up, Jamie's situation is a bit more complicated than normal. Jamie's relationship with John Dutton, who's played by Kevin Costner, is constantly being torn apart by his siblings, as well as family secrets that John never wanted to share with Jamie in the first place, which makes the trope a bit more complicated than the typical rich white sad boy. From the moment we met Jamie in Yellowstone, it was clear that he was willing to go to any length to win his father's love, even if it meant sacrificing his values in the process. We have seen that the tide is turning in Jamie's feelings about John now that we're in season 5 of the show. Where Jamie differs most from other sad rich white boys like Ward in Iron Fist, Kendall in Succession, and Logan in Westworld is that extra layer of turmoil from discovering he was adopted in season 3. Kendall, Ward, and Logan all have to unpack their hatred for the part of themselves that is their father. And while Jamie was going through the same thing in Yellowstone's first 3 seasons, learning the truth about his real parents completely changed his approach to John. In the end, the Duttons were wrong to keep the truth from Jamie, but their deception allowed him to meet his birth father, Garrett Randall, played by Will Patton, and learn the truth about his origins. And when he did, he met a man who had murdered his wife, Jamie's mother, due to drug addiction. But did this make matters easier for Jamie? Next up, Jamie is still a Dutton though. Understandably, the revelation about his biological father pushed Jamie even deeper into the concept of daddy issues that he's had since the beginning of the show, and adds another layer of complication to the way Jamie thinks about himself as a member of the Dutton family. Before that, he had his own hatred of the burden placed on his shoulders. While learning the truth about his biological father causes Jamie to do a lot of self-reflection. From what we've seen of John and Jamie's relationship, John didn't necessarily treat Jamie any differently than he did his own biological sons, Lee, Dave Annabelle, and Casey, Luke Grimes. Compared to his brothers though, Jamie goes on to become a lawyer and builds a career that is very beneficial to John, but knowing his true origins has no doubt changed the nature of Jamie's relationship with John, possibly for the better. Now he's more interested in taking down John than in helping him, and while this isn't a new dynamic for them, it's fascinating to watch unfold throughout the season. Jamie was already on the outs with his family before discovering he was adopted, and he even eventually found his way back into their good graces, only to sort of take himself out again. All this adds up to him being the ideal type of character to join the club of sad boys. Following up, his daddy issues are only amplified by Beth's hate for Jamie. Jamie isn't just dealing with his father and how he feels about him, but also being forced to come to terms with the irreversible pain he has caused his sister Beth. When Jamie decides to take Beth to a Native American abortion clinic to help her out, he didn't tell her that the procedure included sterilization. Because of this one decision, he changed the course of his sister's life forever. But simply, Beth despises Jamie because his actions prevented her from having biological children. And to make matters worse, Beth felt betrayed because he kept her in the dark about the abortion's effects, which is something she hasn't been able to forgive Jamie for. Since learning what Jamie had done, she's been unable to see him as her brother. In fact, the knowledge that Jamie is adopted has only convinced her that there's some evil within him, which is why she's determined to make his life a living hell. What's weird is that Jamie can't seem to understand just how awful his actions were. By taking away her choice to have children, he's changed her life forever and continually acts ignorant when his sister directs her rage at him. From his point of view, he was there for Beth when she needed him and tried to keep everyone safe. Following up, will Beth ever forgive Jamie? No, it doesn't seem like Beth will ever be able to forgive Jamie for agreeing to the hysterectomy. While she was always harboring this hate for his sins because Jamie constantly betrayed the family who took him in, she hated him even more. Beth is her dad's little girl and adores her father and does everything to please him. So when she sees Jamie working against him, she feels the same way about him as she does the others who challenge him. The actress Kelly Riley, who plays Beth in Yellowstone, had an interesting perspective on the siblings' troubling relationship. She felt really bad for Jamie because of how toxic the relationship was. Plus, she felt bad for Beth too, because she was in so much pain. Not only because of what she'd lost, but because she had once loved her brother a lot, all of which is now turned into hate. Beth had no reason to despise Jamie before his evil deed. She loved him like a sister would a brother, which is why his treachery left her so scarred. Coming up, why does the Dutton family hate Jamie? Jamie has taken the course John Dutton set for him for his entire life without a single argument. He attended Harvard, got to the very top of the legal profession, and did everything he could to keep his family safe. But despite it all, he has received mistrust, abuse, and contempt from the the Duttons. One reason for this could be that the family thinks he isn't a true Dutton because he was adopted, so the family has meagerly tolerated his presence, and you could probably begin to see that some of his actions even make sense now, right? Except for Beth, the Duttons' animosity for Jamie is not very clear at the beginning of the series. The first significant disagreement between him and the others arose when he selfishly refused to withdraw his Attorney General campaign. The outcome was disownment. Plus, some fans believe that John adopted Beth's long-standing animosity against Jamie when he learned about the abortion clinic in the 4th season. This stands because the father and daughter are really close, and because Jamie's actions aren't excusable. As we said, Jamie's daddy issues are much more complicated than you're used to seeing. Coming up, what does this say about Jamie's future with John? You could easily dismiss these types of characters, and you'd be correct. They're extremely wealthy men who have everything they could ever want, but the one thing they can't have is what's breaking them. They don't have that warm and fuzzy relationship with their father that they crave, and it's ruined their entire lives. Characters such as Jamie and Ward McCann then try to protect their own children from the same cycle, but it's not always enough to repair their relationships with their fathers. So we don't know what Jamie and John's relationship will be like in the future, and given the changes it already has undergone, it could easily undergo another major shift. For the time being, Jamie is devising a strategy to exact revenge on his father, the consequences of which will be fascinating to watch unfold throughout Yellowstone Season 5 and beyond. Moving on, the Lannisters and Game of Thrones. Anyone who's watched the show knows that almost every character in that book suffers from some kind of issue, one of which is almost always their daddy issues. The Lannister siblings are all affected by it. Jaime and Cersei were both hurt by Tywin's cold and hard outer shell that neither of them could ever get to crack. They looked like the perfect children on the outside, and Tywin was glad to be seen in their company because the twins were perfect physical specimens and looked perfect. But behind closed doors, it was a whole other story. In fact, fans have gone so far as to blame Tywin's detached behavior to be the reason why the twins found solace in each other's beds instead. They didn't have a mother and not really a father as well. And who can forget Tyrion Lannister? The youngest child didn't ever come close to hating his father, no matter how horribly he treated him. Like the guy was forced to watch his wife get assaulted by a group of soldiers, all because his father didn't want his family name associated with the lower class. Talk about deranged. With every action, Tyrion did his best to prove to his father just why he should be entrusted with more important matters. But almost always, the old guy showed him no kind of favor, which only led Tyrion to make even dumber decisions than before, like bringing Shae to the Red Keep just because his father told him not to. Tywin's story ends the only way it could when he was finally killed by his son. Finally, the Roy siblings and Succession. Yes, Succession, like many other cable TV shows, is drowning in rich people problems with its glamorous locales, pristine private jets, and laissez-faire hard drug use with weirdly few consequences for its privileged characters. But we all know that the show's true joy, however, comes from something far more banal, the comedy and tragedy that comes from the Roy siblings wanting their daddy's approval, and how they will react when it's clear they failed to get it once more. Getting on Logan's good side means powerful positions at Waystar Royco, a fictional family-run conglomerate modeled after companies like News Corp and Hearst, which owns the Chronicle. In the process of trying to prove themselves, the Roy's errors have at times bigger consequences than they might have imagined. Millions of dollars go to waste, employees lose limbs, a young man even dies. Still, none of these tragedies have really mattered, except in how they relate to each of the siblings standing within the business, and let's not forget, in their father's eyes. That's a wrap for this video. Do you think Jaime's daddy issues will ever be resolved in Yellowstone? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.